Some of you are waiting to feel healed before you believe, but that is exactly why healing hasn't come yet. Because the truth is this: healing doesn't begin in your body. It begins the moment you take God at His word. Right now, I want you to do something bold, type, or say out loud, "I receive my healing now." Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Say it in faith. God's word is not ordinary speech or mere written language. It carries within it the very life and power of God Himself. When it is spoken, heard, and received with faith, it becomes active, not passive. Just as medicine contains ingredients designed to bring healing to the body, the Word contains divine life designed to restore, renew, and make whole every part of a person. This is not symbolic language. It is a spiritual reality. The power is already in the Word, just as the strength of a seed is already inside it before it is planted. When a person takes medicine, they are trusting that what is inside it will work, even if they do not fully understand how. In the same way, receiving God's Word requires trust. You may not feel anything immediately, and your senses may not detect a change at first, but that does not mean nothing is happening. The Word begins working beneath the surface, in the unseen realm of the Spirit, where true transformation always starts. Many people make the mistake of looking for instant physical evidence, but spiritual things operate differently. The Word must first be received into the heart, believed without doubt, and allowed to remain there. As it stays within, it begins to push out fear, unbelief, and weakness, replacing them with faith, strength, and confidence. Over time, what has taken root inside will begin to show on the outside. Consistency is key. Just like natural medicine must be taken regularly to be effective, the Word must be heard, spoken, and meditated on continually. It is not a one-time action, but a daily intake. The more you expose yourself to it, the more its life-giving power saturates your being. It starts shaping your thoughts, influencing your words, and strengthening your inner man. When the Word is fully received, it does not remain inactive. It produces results. It brings alignment between what God has declared and what is experienced in life. The healing power is not something added later. It is already present within the Word, waiting to be activated through faith and consistent application. Healing always begins in the Spirit, because the Spirit is the core of who you are. Your body may be what you see, and your mind may be what you feel, but your spirit is the real you. It is the deepest part of your being, and it is the place where God's power first makes contact. When healing comes from God, it does not start outwardly where symptoms are visible. It starts inwardly where truth is received and believed. Many people focus only on their physical condition, constantly checking their bodies for change, but that approach keeps them limited to what they can see and feel. True faith operates differently. It understands that what happens in the Spirit will eventually influence what happens in the body. Just like the root of a tree is hidden beneath the ground, but determines the health of the entire tree, the condition of your spirit determines what will manifest outwardly. When you receive God's Word concerning healing, it is planted in your spirit like a seed. At first, there may be no visible evidence, just like a seed underground shows no immediate sign of growth. But that does not mean nothing is happening. Beneath the surface, life is already at work. The Word begins to renew your inner man, replacing fear with confidence and doubt with assurance. This inner transformation is the beginning of healing. Your spirit, once filled with faith, begins to influence your mind and body. Thoughts begin to change. Instead of expecting the worst, you begin to expect restoration. Instead of speaking defeat, you begin to speak life. This shift is not forced. It flows naturally from what has taken root inside. The body often follows the direction set by the inner man because it responds to what is consistently believed and spoken. Patience becomes important in this process. Spiritual change can be immediate, but physical manifestation may take time. That does not mean healing is absent. It means it is unfolding. Staying steady in belief allows what has begun in the Spirit to continue its work until it is fully expressed outwardly. Faith is not something that appears suddenly or randomly. It is built, developed, and strengthened over time, and it comes through one consistent process, hearing and speaking the Word again and again. It does not grow through feelings, circumstances, or positive thinking alone. It grows when the Word is given first place in your ears and in your mouth. What you continually hear begins to shape what you believe, and what you repeatedly speak reinforces what is taking root inside you. When the Word is heard, it enters the mind first, but it is meant to go deeper into the heart. The more you hear it, the more familiar it becomes, and what was once just information begins to turn into conviction. At first, it may feel like you are just listening to words, but over time, those words begin to carry weight. They begin to feel real, solid, and dependable. That is the beginning of faith forming within you. Speaking the Word is just as important as hearing it. When you speak something, you are not only expressing it, you are establishing it within yourself. Your own voice becomes a powerful influence on your inner belief system. If you constantly speak fear, doubt will grow stronger. But when you speak the Word, even if it feels unnatural at first, you begin to align your inner world with truth. The repetition of speaking builds confidence and removes uncertainty. There is a connection between the heart and the mouth that cannot be ignored. What fills your heart will eventually come out of your mouth, and what you consistently say will cycle back and strengthen what is in your heart. This creates a loop where hearing leads to speaking, and speaking reinforces hearing, causing faith to grow steadily. Consistency matters more than intensity. It is not about one powerful moment, but about daily exposure. Even when nothing seems to change outwardly, something is being built inwardly. Faith is forming layer by layer, becoming stable and unshakable. Over time, what you once struggled to believe becomes something you stand on without hesitation. And that kind of faith is what positions you to receive what God has already provided. Doubt acts like a barrier that interrupts the flow of God's power in a person's life, not because God becomes unwilling to act, but because doubt prevents the heart from fully receiving what has already been provided. Faith and doubt cannot occupy the same space for long. One will always begin to dominate the other depending on what is being fed. When doubt is fed through fear, negative reports, and constant focus on symptoms or problems, it grows stronger and begins to shape expectations. An expectation is powerful because what you consistently expect is often what you position yourself to experience. Faith, on the other hand, is what opens the heart to receive. It is not a force that convinces God to move, but a response that aligns a person with what God has already said. When doubt is present, it weakens that alignment. It does not necessarily cancel God's promise, but it makes the heart unstable, constantly shifting between belief and unbelief. That instability prevents deep confidence from forming, and without confidence it becomes difficult to receive anything fully. This is why the focus is not on trying harder in the natural sense, but on guarding what is allowed to dominate the mind and mouth. Whatever is repeatedly heard and spoken will eventually shape inner agreement. If a person constantly speaks about how nothing is changing, how things are getting worse, or how healing seems impossible, those words reinforce doubt and give it authority in the inner life. But when the word is spoken consistently, it begins to push doubt out, replacing it with assurance. Faith grows in an atmosphere where the word is given priority. It becomes strong when attention is placed more on what God has said than on what circumstances are saying. This does not mean denying reality, but it means refusing to allow reality to become the final authority. The final authority remains the Word. As doubt loses influence, the heart becomes more receptive. It begins to settle, to rest, and to trust without constant struggle. That inner stability is what allows healing to be received without resistance, because the heart is no longer divided, but fully anchored in what God has spoken and fully open to its manifestation in life. Speaking the word is not just a religious habit or a positive confession technique. It is a spiritual release of power that activates what God has already provided. Words are not empty sounds. They carry direction, authority, and influence. When you speak God's word, you are not merely repeating information. You are agreeing with heaven and releasing that agreement into your situation. That agreement becomes a channel through which divine power begins to operate in your life. Many people believe the word silently but never give it voice, and because of that they miss an important part of its function. The word was designed to be both believed in the heart and spoken with the mouth. When it remains only in thought, it is still forming conviction inside, but when it is spoken, it takes on an active force in the atmosphere around you. Speaking causes what is inside to move outward and begin influencing what you experience. There is something powerful about hearing your own voice declare what God has said. It strengthens your inner man and weakens opposing thoughts. Each time you speak the word, you are reinforcing truth and dismantling lies at the same time. Fear begins to lose strength when it is confronted repeatedly with truth spoken out loud. This is because words create focus, and focus shapes belief, and belief determines expectation. Your mouth becomes a tool of direction. If you constantly speak weakness, delay, and sickness, you are reinforcing those realities in your consciousness. But when you speak healing, restoration, and life, even before you see it, you are aligning yourself with God's promise. This alignment is not emotional, it is spiritual. It does not depend on how you feel in the moment, but on what you choose to declare consistently. Over time, spoken word begins to dominate inner thinking. What you say repeatedly becomes what you naturally think, and what you think repeatedly becomes what you expect. This is why speaking cannot be occasional. It must be intentional and steady. As this continues, the atmosphere around your life begins to shift, because the word being spoken is not ordinary. It is living, active, and filled with divine authority that begins to shape outcomes from the inside out. Meditation on the Word is what allows truth to move from the surface of the mind into the deepest part of the heart, where real transformation takes place. It is more than reading or casual thinking. It is a slow, deliberate, and repeated focus that gives the Word time to settle inside you. When you meditate on something, you are not rushing past it. You are letting it sink in, turning it over in your thoughts until it becomes more real to you than the distractions around you. Many people hear the word, even believe it at a basic level, but still struggle to see results because it has not yet taken deep root. Meditation is what pushes the word beyond mental agreement into heart conviction. As you keep thinking about what God has said, it begins to reshape the way you see your situation. What once looked impossible starts to look manageable, and what once created fear begins to lose its grip. This shift does not happen instantly, but it is steady and powerful. When you meditate on the Word, you are essentially giving it permission to rewrite your inner narrative. The mind often holds memories of pain, reports of sickness, and experiences of failure. Meditation replaces those patterns with truth. Instead of rehearsing problems, you begin to rehearse promises. Instead of replaying fear, you begin to replay God's assurance. Over time, this repetition creates a new mental environment where faith can grow naturally. As the Word fills your thoughts consistently, it begins to influence your emotions. Anxiety starts to reduce and peace begins to rise. This is because meditation is not just intellectual, it is spiritual nourishment. It feeds your inner man with life. The more you feed on it, the stronger your inner stability becomes, even if external conditions remain unchanged. Eventually, what you meditate on becomes what you expect, and what you expect shapes how you respond to life. Meditation makes the word personal, not distant. It turns promises into reality within your consciousness before they ever appear outwardly. And when the heart is fully saturated with that truth, doubt loses space, and faith becomes the natural response to every challenge, creating an inner alignment that prepares you to receive what God has already made available. Acting on the Word is the moment where belief moves from being internal conviction to outward expression. It is where faith becomes visible. Many people hear the Word, agree with it mentally, even speak it, but stop short of action, and that is where they miss the full impact. The Word is not given just to be studied or repeated. It is given to be responded to. Action is the evidence that the heart has truly accepted what God has said. When you act on the Word, you are making a decision that goes beyond what your senses are reporting. You are choosing to behave as though what God has spoken is already true, even if circumstances have not yet changed. This is not denial of reality. It is submission to a higher reality. The natural mind demands proof before movement, but faith moves first and sees proof later. That is the difference between mental agreement and living faith. Every action rooted in the Word sends a signal of trust. It tells your inner being that you are fully convinced, not partially persuaded. For example, when a person believes in healing, their actions begin to reflect that belief. Instead of speaking defeat or preparing for failure, they begin to align their choices with life and restoration. These actions may seem small, but they carry spiritual weight because they are connected to belief. Acting on the Word also strengthens faith further. It creates a cycle where belief produces action, and action reinforces belief. The more you act, the more real the promise becomes within you. This breaks the cycle of hesitation and doubt, replacing it with confidence and expectation. Without action, faith remains incomplete, but with action, faith becomes mature and stable. There is always a moment where belief must cross the line into doing. That is where transformation accelerates. When you act on what God has said, you are demonstrating trust in His authority over your situation. And in that place of obedience and response, the unseen begins to align with the spoken promise, and what was once only believed inwardly starts moving toward visible manifestation in your life. Healing is never something you earn through effort or deserve through performance. It is something you receive through faith in what has already been provided. This is where many people struggle because they approach healing as a reward instead of a gift. But God's way is different. Healing is already finished in His provision, and faith is simply the hand that receives it. The moment you shift from trying to achieve healing to receiving it, everything changes in your inner posture. Receiving requires openness, not striving. It is like opening a door to something already waiting outside. If the door remains closed through unbelief, fear, or constant doubt, what has been made available cannot be experienced. But when the heart opens through trust, agreement, and surrender to God's Word, it becomes possible to receive what was always present. Faith does not create healing, it accesses it. This receiving is not passive, it is active trust. It involves a settled confidence that God is truthful and that His Word is final. When that confidence becomes stable, the inner struggle begins to calm. Instead of fighting between hope and fear, the heart begins to rest in assurance. That rest is a powerful place because it removes internal resistance, allowing what God has spoken to flow freely into experience. Receiving also requires letting go of self-reliance. Many people try to analyze, figure out, or control the process, but faith asks for surrender. It is not about understanding everything. It is about trusting the one who has spoken. When the heart stops struggling to make things happen and simply agrees with God, a shift takes place inside. In that place of simple, childlike trust, healing becomes real in experience, not just theory. The body begins to align with what the Spirit has already accepted. Peace replaces anxiety, assurance replaces fear, and expectation replaces doubt. And gradually, what was once only believed becomes something lived, because faith has received what grace has already provided. In conclusion, the message is simple yet deeply powerful. God's Word is not empty, and it is not distant. It is living medicine designed to bring life, restoration, and healing to every area of your being. Healing is not something you chase after in fear or uncertainty. It is something already made available through God's promise. The real journey is not about convincing God to do something new, but about aligning your heart with what He has already spoken. When the Word is received, it begins to work like medicine within the Spirit, quietly transforming thoughts, renewing strength, and rebuilding faith from the inside out. It does not always produce immediate outward evidence, but it is always active beneath the surface. As it is heard, spoken, meditated on, and acted upon, it gradually replaces doubt with confidence and fear with assurance. The inner man becomes strong, steady, and fully anchored in truth. Doubt may try to resist, and circumstances may try to speak louder, but the authority of God's Word remains unshaken. When faith is built through consistent exposure to that Word, it begins to dominate inner thinking, shape expectations, and influence responses to life. What once felt impossible begins to shift in the direction of hope and restoration. True healing is received when the heart stops striving and starts trusting. It is in that place of simple, unwavering faith that the power of God's promise becomes real in experience. The body begins to respond to what the Spirit has already embraced, and what was once only a promise becomes a living reality. So hold fast to the Word, speak it, believe it, meditate on it, and act on it until it becomes more real to you than anything else. Because when God's Word takes its rightful place in your heart, healing is no longer a question. It becomes a manifestation of divine truth already at work within you.